welcomed addition because it now allows us to be able to bring people to see and participate in the ecological aspect of it all. So the community is split down the middle, right? And I've never seen in my professional life a situation where we try the good but we do bad.
Yeah.
So that's a catch-22,
Yeah.
right?
I think, though, that's often the case when you have these smaller communities that are used to a status quo, so to speak. And that's the reason why I mentioned public land or private land, because in this case, the government is allowed to use it's public property for efforts like this, a sanctuary or any other conservation initiative that they would have come up with. But if it has been a standard where these persons in this community would have had access to this open plot of land, even if it's not privately owned, but they're so used to doing this practice, I could see where that could stomp on some toes. For me, though, my question that I ask, and I'm pretty sure I've asked this several times where there are other parallel stories very similar to this, who gets the final say when you have a situation where it's not a private property, but it still affects the public,
well, it's
a
essential,
smaller community?
I understand your question, but it's essential to understand and appreciate the fact that these farmers would have been relocated. So it's not as if though the land is being taken away and they're not, you know, being offered an option to go somewhere else to do their livelihood. So we just need to put that in context, right? But I would want to think that in an issue such as this, consensus has to take the lead, right? Because for argument's sake, if 70% of the community says we're not upon that, then there should be some consideration to that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just my layman's thinking. I may be wrong on that, but you know, I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking a majority rule vote kind of thing, right? But what I want for us to do at the moment, Sabrina, so our colleague Brittany Gordon has been on top of this issue since last week. And so she was at the consultation yesterday. She spoke with the executive director for the Friends of Conservation and Development, Rafael Manzanero, who was also down there to, you know, participate in this particular discussion. So at this moment, what we want to do is go to that video so that we can hear from him what his concerns are and how this would all work, at least in theory.
Yeah.
Good evening, Belize. You're here with News 5 Live. I'm Brittany Gordon, and I'm reporting here in Red Bank Village, where the government and residents are participating in a public consultation. This consultation is to discuss the proposal to establish a sanctuary 2 in the Maya Hills nearby. These hills are the feeding ground for the scarlet macaws, who migrate from the Chiquibo every single year. Now, some residents do take concern with this proposal, as they fear that it might push out them from the area where they do their farming, while others, such as the tour guides, are concerned that development in the area may cause the scarlet macaws to leave the area, or that they might not have any access to the hills at all. Back in 2020, the Friends for Conservation and Development conducted a study to track the migration patterns of the scarlet macaw and propose a sanctuary area. That was rejected by the village council as it infringed on the farming areas of the local residents. Now there's a new proposal that's supported by the local tour guides, and so the consultation is here to discuss that. Tonight I am joined by Rafael Manzanero, who is the Executive Director of the Friends for Conservation and Development. Mr. Manzanero, how are you?
I am fine, thank you very much. Good night.
So talk to me about your presence here tonight. Why exactly did you feel it important to come out and participate in this?
So we actually were invited to be here for the event, and we basically, of course, care about the macaws because these are the very same birds that are in the Chiquibo Forest Reserve and the Chiquibo National Park. So these birds, they migrate down here to Red Bank, really for the feeding areas. Now, only one correction. We did do an analysis in terms of the science to look at the migration, but we were not the ones who were recommending for a reserve. I think it really came about more from the community at the time. And so we basically were doing some of the site visits only to share some of the information and the data about what we were observing. But at the end of the day, it is really more as a community approach that it would be either for it to happen or either not really to occur. So, but the science does show indeed that it's the same population that we have in Chiquibul that basically travel down here for 4 to 5 months and then they return back again there to breed. The nesting areas are primarily in the Chiquibul, but they depend, of course, to these areas that we have in the eastern Maya Mountains.
When it comes to protecting these birds, what are some of the biggest challenges that they face?
I think in the Chiquibul area, the main kind of the challenge is the poaching, illegal wildlife trade, where we do have particularly Guatemalans who would basically move from the border into Belize and be able to basically come to take away these parrots. So that's the major kind of the threat. Here, I think historically the concern has always been of the land. If where the feeding areas, if macaws might be losing those trees where they come and feed. So I think that has been the concern always. But it changes if you look at the threats from the western Maya Mountains to the eastern Maya Mountains.
Do you know what exactly attracts the birds specifically to Red Bank Village?
It is really the feeding areas. So you will find particular species here, although over in Chiquibul, of course, they have other kind of diets that the birds would have, but here there are particular species like the polewood, the coffee tree that they come really to feed on. So that's what really is the major attraction. In the Chiquibul, you will find that they are in the quamwood, but they basically use that particular species for the nesting. Here it's really more for the food, for the fruits, and so that's what they come for here. Primarily from what we know. Important also is that there are other areas. It's not only around these areas. I think over the more recent years, over the last 2 years, we have seen more an expansion of where the birds are also like moving either to the Coxcomb, either to Bladen, to Maya Mountain North, which is nice to see because it means that there are more bigger numbers that are in the country that they are seeking also for new grounds.
And when it comes to the proposal for this Sanctuary 2, Sanctuary 2 means that the residents would be allowed some access to the area to gather their cahoon for their houses and to do some activity there. Do you foresee that this will continue to keep the birds here, or will it potentially cause some risk of having them move still?
I think globally you can see, and I think what we have determined as environmentalists, and this is really more at the global level where species can be able to survive with communities. So I think it is really a matter of management. Management always, it would be able to indicate clearly what are the interventions to use. But you can see that communities really living, particularly in this case where historically community has been along with macaws, then I would feel, of course, confident that it can be done. It's just a matter of how does that really relate on, and it has to be a community approach. I fully agree on that. I think the community knows much more their conditions. They have known also how the macaws really are able to survive here. So it's really more a matter of making that particular mix, which I think is going to be unique. There are other parts of Belize that does the same thing, the Crooked Tree, right, where they have the lagoon, they have the bird sanctuary there. So I think it's possible. It's just a matter of really how do we really take that as the interventions to make those things work. Biocultural, which is the biology and the cultural intervention. So I think it will be really a nice model here too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me here. Well, you heard it here first, folks. The consultation hasn't really begun as yet, but residents are arriving, government officials are here, and very soon those discussions will begin on whether or not the Sanctuary 2 should be introduced in the area. As I mentioned before, the major concern lies between the farmers and the tour guides, both of whom worry about losing potential access to the area. We'll keep you updated as the consultation.
All right, so that was our colleague Brittany Gordon from Red Bank Village yesterday, right? And of course, this was prior to the actual session itself, which, as I mentioned earlier, devolved into chaos and police had to get involved and what have you. So I don't know at this point what the conclusion was or what resolution, if any, was come to. Suffice to say that things get heated.
Yeah.
You believe in one thing, I believe in something else, but two of we stand to be affected, right?
Yeah. I think ultimately what's important for us to come back to is the purpose of having the sanctuary in the first place. As Brittany highlighted, this would be the second sanctuary, efforts being made to protect macaws here in Belize. You would also know, Isani, that we have on several occasions investigated the poaching that is taking place, where persons would come into the country, illegally extract these birds, sell it across the border for thousands of dollars. An entire industry, an illegal industry, is taking place at that. You would know in some other countries in Central America, this is their national bird as well. I believe in Honduras or El Salvador. And so it's important for us to protect our species that we have here as well. Following the migration patterns, I believe, and their settling areas, perhaps that's where they landed at Red Bank. But ultimately, there has to be conversations taking place on both sides, from conservationists and also community as well, to ensure that everyone at least can be able to see some level of needs being met.
See, the person who is faced with an issue is the one who knows how he or she would be adversely affected by it. From where I sit, I don't live in Red Bank, right? Probably only visited once or twice in my professional life. But I'm all for the conservation of these birds.
Yeah.
And that's my bias. Admittedly, that's my bias, right? But me not live there. So I can't tell you whether people they deal with in terms of the lands that they use for farming and the lands that they use for their tourism activities and what have you. I really cannot say that.
Yeah.
But when I look at the efforts being put into protecting this species of bird, this exotic species of bird.
Yeah.
My heart did it.
No, it's hard though.
That's fair for me to say, but it's biased nonetheless.
It's fair, but I think looking at it practically, logically, it's much easier to move the farmers than tell the birds, go over this side, this section instead, and we can, have a sanctuary here for you. But I also empathize with farmers.
What have you been farming that land for the past 40 years?
I was going to get to that, Isani, but I also empathize with the farmers, because it's not like you just choose a plot of land and you start planting. You have to invest in your soil, all of that. I mean, you can't just pick up your corn or whatever you have planted there and just go put it somewhere else. Right? It takes years of investment in these properties as well. And so
it's a catch-22.
Really, they find themselves in a pickle. But I think ultimately, the only thing that we can see, the only, I think, logical move would be the farmers moving. You can't move the birds. And so we'll definitely be following this one closely. Hopefully we can see some type of amicable solution be placed. And of course, we will be providing you with that update. At this time, though, Isani, we do want to move things along. I believe we have a couple more minutes that we can jump into another topic.
Sure.
And so let's go over to a bit of some lighter news, perhaps. I think what's exciting for sports here in Belize, the announcement of NEBL returning. I believe this is since 2020. You would know that we were also closely following the Belize, the BEBL last season. But the NEBL's return has been bringing along a lot of excitement with it, I think, because of the cash prize, the incentives that are involved. There's also been announcements that teams have been coming on, excited to kick off the games in February. But with a cash prize, Isani, of $100,000. That's a lot of money. I think that's also history as well in Belizean sports.
Yeah, I get that. And I fully appreciate that.
You don't sound impressed. You don't look impressed.
Well, I'm not going to go in the direction of the cash prize just yet. I feel like every year is a different iteration of basketball in Belize.
Right.
That's how I feel. And if I'm someone that's either closely following it or loosely following it, I kind of confused when you had a NEBL, BEBL, this EBL interaction.
Well, I think there are only two BL.
Just give me one minute. I have an NBA one spell and I have something else next spell.
I know.
Just give me one thing and I cool with that. But to the cash prize, right? As you rightly mentioned, this is perhaps the biggest spot ever for any sports in this country, right? $100,000. But this is not for any one person. This is for the entire team that comes out on top. And it's only 70% of it that they would be taking home. The other 30,000 goes to whoever would be in second place, right? But yes, if this is not an incentive, I don't know what else is, right? But last year, in a different league, there were championship gold rings and all these other prizes that were given to the team that emerged victorious too, right? So I don't know. I don't know if 20 rings come up to about 70,000. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Would you choose rings, shiny rings over money?
I'd take the ring, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No me.
To each his own, right? That's like, would you go to prom or would you take a high school ring?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's what it is, right?
An experience over
exactly.
Memorabilia. But definitely that's exciting news. And I get your point about the two different leagues, but we've been following what has been taking place behind the scenes with that as well.
Yeah.
I think people are just excited to have something to go out and support basketball. One thing Belizeans love, volleyball, basketball, and football. I think those are like our three top sports. And we have been definitely enjoying the different leagues. I remember I stopped in at a couple of the NEBL games. I checked out a couple of the BBL games. I even participated in a game, played basketball myself. But ultimately, it's a family event. It's ways that we can see young athletes develop their skills further. I believe they were also having call-ins for people who would like to test out themselves to join a team. So that's exciting too. And we'll definitely be following that as well because we have Sports Monday. And so we got to keep an eye on that too.
Sports Monday will be back on Monday after a brief hiatus.
Exactly.
Right? Had to make them boy rest a little bit.
Best way to come back to talk about a huge pot like that, $100,000. We definitely want to follow that further. But now let's jump into our weather update. We have that update from the folks at the National Meteorological Service. All right, here is our eye on the weather. Isani kind of hinted a little bit earlier that it's been quite cooler, at least for the first half of January. But in terms of today's forecast, it calls for sunny with a few cloudy spells and cloudy at times tonight. Showers will be isolated today with the chance for a few more inland this afternoon. Late tonight, a few showers will develop along the coast and offshore areas. In terms of today's temperatures, coastal areas will be experiencing highs of 82 degrees Fahrenheit and then dropping to a low of 72. Inland, very similar. However, their lows will drop to 68 and then their high at 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in the hills, highs of 74 degrees and lows of 62 degrees Fahrenheit. The extended forecast for Thursday. I know tomorrow's a holiday, and so a lot of you guys might want to know if it's an inside the house holiday or outside. In terms of temperatures, you can expect 80 and 82 for inland and coastal areas, dropping to lows of 71 and 67. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can expect highs of 78 for inland and coastal areas, then dropping to lows of 69 and 62. On Saturday, 79 and 72 for highs, 67 and 60. On Sunday, 80 and 82, quite warmer for highs, and then 72 and 66 for lows in inland and coastal areas. The marine conditions, the sea state is light to chop with winds blowing from the north at 5 to 15 knots. Today's high tide will take place at 8:17 a.m. with a low tide at 12:30 a.m. and then another high tide at 6:26 p.m. and then tomorrow another low tide at 2:44 that is a.m. I believe the low tide will also take place at 12:30 p.m. In terms of our astronomical forecast, the sun rose this morning at 6:26 a.m. and is set to set at 5:37 p.m. The moon set will take place at 2:08 p.m. and will rise at 3:53 a.m. And that does it for our Eye on the Weather, courtesy the folks from the National Meteorological Service. Isani, back to you.
All right, Sab. Guys, when we come back, it's all about discussing and sharing medical insights on preventable road injuries.
In the heart of the Kayo district, Calico Jacks is proving that sustainability and success can go hand in hand.
When Calico Jacks wanted to move to solar energy, the biggest difficulty for us was the finance. Belize Bank believed in our vision, and we are very happy and grateful that they gave us this opportunity for the financing.
Through the Credit Risk Abatement Facility, a partnership between Belize Bank and the CARICOM Development Fund, small and medium businesses can access financing for renewable and energy-efficient solutions with reduced collateral requirements.
Here at SCSB, we're grateful for Belize Bank to make it easier for our clients to go green. We're proud to work with businesses like Calico Jacks to help them lower their costs and their carbon footprint.
At Belize Bank, we are powering Belize's transition to renewable energy, one business at a time. Together with our partners, we're making sustainable financing accessible for all.
Belize Bank, financing a greener, stronger Belize.
This year reminded us that our work is so much more than communication. It's connection. Every time we supported a school, a youth program, or a community event, we felt the heartbeat of Belize. We met students who just needed someone to believe in them, and families grateful for a supportive hand. We saw communities welcome SMART not just as a brand, but a trusted friend. For us, impact is created through service, presence, and purpose. As we move into a new year, we remain committed to empowering our communities and sharing stories that reflect how SMART strengthens the connections that matter most.
That commitment to people drives how we build our products. We focused on delivering real value and flexibility. We upgraded our postpaid plans to include social media data, keeping you connected to your favorite platforms without the extra cost. For the prepay family, we enhanced prepaid plans to ensure you get more data and benefits from every single recharge. Flex bundles now better match real-time budgets, improving affordability. We introduced affordable Mexico data bundles to keep you connected while traveling. We are listening, adapting, and ensuring you get high-value connectivity you deserve.
Great plans need a great network. SMART strengthened its promise of bringing people together by investing heavily in expansion. We added new towers in key areas, bringing a stronger signal and improved service to more communities. Customers along the coastal road in Blancano, Mountain Pine Ridge, and Cristo Rey now enjoy more consistent coverage, making SMART a reliable companion for every journey. SMART launched its fiber network in Sartineja, bringing reliable high-speed connectivity for today's digital needs.
At SMART, we strive to reflect the energy of Belize in everything we do. From celebrating 20 years of excellent service to exciting collaborations, we've shared unforgettable times. We've delighted you with our biggest giveaways and deals ever, ads you could laugh and connect to, and launched a revamped website to make your digital experience faster and more engaging.
As we look forward to the new year, we remain committed to what matters to you most: the communities we serve, the connections we build, and the precious moments we all share. All these remind us of our true identity and steadfast purpose, bringing people together.
And welcome back. Our first conversation this morning is with Dr. Jorge Hidalgo. He's an internist and he's a regular face here at Open Your Eyes. Good morning, Doc,
Good morning,
and Happy
Doc.
New Year.
Thank you for having me one more time, and Happy New Year.
Yes. Doc, we're talking about preventable road injuries, and this topic comes at a time where we've noticed a significant spike in the number of road traffic accidents. Some that are fatal, some that are non-fatal. some that are preventable and others that just happen, right? The point here is that as a medical professional, you've probably seen quite a number of these victims or patients that they become as a result of these crashes. What is your thought, first of all, on what you've been seeing so far? This escalation in the number of fatal RTAs or RTAs that leave people badly injured.
Yes, this is a very important topic, and we call it road traffic accidents. But honestly, as when we see most of those are preventable injuries. I mean that most effort has been put on that. Actually, in 2021, the United Nations and all the countries that signed on it, they have a declaration for that for 2021 to 2030. There should be a significant effort among all the countries that sign to have a reduction on traffic accidents, at least, and injuries related, at least by 50%. Oh. Taking into account that globally, the road traffic accidents represent 1.9 million of deaths around the world, and more or less 20 to 50 millions of people have any type of related injuries. Some of them are serious, and of course, the most important one is the fact that most of these injuries have a long impact in one of those people's lives, because cause disabilities, they are off work for a significant amount of days, and some of them are disabled for the rest of their life. I mean that that's the reason why that this effort from the United Nations and all the signature countries are to trying to do that and trying to do some implementation on reducing this the number of accidents and of course the related injuries.
What do you observe in a trauma room when a victim is brought in? What more often than not do you see?
Yes, well, we have we call it a tree model of picture. We see in an accident, we see identify three peaks. One, the initial peak is those patients that have a immediate fatal injury, either because they have a massive brain trauma or they have a section of the main arteries and they die on the site. The second peak are those patients that they have a serious trauma in the thorax or in the abdomen, but they lost a significant amount of blood, and then the people, the pre-hospital services and all and the emergency room, they need to be in a communication to be able to recognize on time and act on time on those type of injuries. We call it the golden hour. And that is very important. We have most of the time we have people with the lungs are collapsed, or there's an explosion of the spleen. That is one of the most common injuries that we see. And also trauma in the spine or pelvic trauma that causes a significant loss of blood in those patients. We need to be able to recognize and act as soon as possible. And the other peak is those similar patients with this significant amount of injuries, but because of the nature of the injuries and long stay in the hospital, they develop infections and they ended dying for multi-organ failure. I mean, those are the three peaks that we see commonly in this type of patients.
I want to take a look at what we would observe as media personnel being on the scene. We would sometimes either be able to go on the scene when the victim of the road traffic accident would still be there, or they would send information to us. Oftentimes, though, it starts with an observer, a person who would have witnessed the crash or who would have found the body there, and it's almost natural instinct Doc, that you would want to go and render aid. You know, it would start by trying to pull the individual out, or whatever would be the first act that would take place. But that is also not recommended. And so I think that's where I want to take the conversation next. How do you know when is the appropriate time to provide aid if all you know is that the person is there? You don't know first, you don't know CPR, you don't know what step to take.
Yes, it's very difficult, no, that we call it the Good Samaritan. At what time we need to act, and how we do, and what we do with those type of patients. No, I believe the most important thing is trying to call the numbers that are identified as emergency numbers to call the services that and also it depends on the location, because sometimes we are in the location that it will take at least 1 hour for the emergency services to reach. No, I mean that we need to act with responsibility as long as what we know and how we can help. In other countries, of course, it's a lot of liability if we do that. No, I mean that in our country, the Good Samaritan law is not. I don't have no clear.
It's a bit
idea,
flexible,
right?
Yeah. I could give a first-hand account as recent as Sunday, right? I happened upon the scene of an accident here in Belize City, where an individual was on a motorcycle. He apparently lost control and slammed into a lamppost right in front of my lights over there. And, well, excuse me, I know what to do and what not to do, but other people who were in the area who happened upon the victim, they were mostly in a state of shock that they didn't know what to do, right? And so I think in some instances, you have to take control of the scene. You don't want to interact with the victim because you don't know the extent of the injuries, but you also want to be sure that other people, because of the same Good Samaritan instinct, don't go and try to move the person, or, you know? And the other observation I immediately saw is because of the state of shock that people are in when they observe someone who's badly injured, they don't know who to call. They don't know if they call police, if they call ambulance. Everybody just starts running around like a chicken without a head. The other observation that I made is Belizeans don't respect when they see something happening and they need to get somewhere. They're still trying to drive around a scene. So if this was an accident where, for instance, it was a hit and run, right? The responding officers would need to collect evidence or whatever it is from that particular scene. But because someone who's coming from behind wants to get to where he or she's going, they just drive through it or drive around it or whatsoever. You're still tampering with the actual area, right? So these are just some of the observations that I've made. And the one that I'm talking about from Sunday still kind of has me frazzled because it's been a while since I'm directly exposed to something like that. But I could only imagine what other people experience when they encounter a fatal collision on the highway, for instance, and they are the first person on that scene. Instinctively, I don't want to try to pull the person out of the vehicle. I know better, so I try to contain my immediate reaction to it. But a lot of people, in their mind, they need to help. In some cases, in other cases, they just need to get to where they're going and they just bypass the thing altogether. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, one of the things that is been also promoting is that most of the people at all levels, the civil society and all, they must have some basic CPR knowledge, no? That they know how to act and what to do in those instances, no? Because most of the time we want to help, but again, we don't want to do harm, no?
Yeah.
The most important thing is not to do harm, but act with responsibility on those scenarios, no? I mean that hopefully it's going to be more education to the public when it comes to CPR and those type of situations. No?
I unfortunately have also found myself being involved in a road traffic accident once. Very unusual situation, but my question has to do with if you are involved in an accident but you're conscious, what do you do? Do you try to move to get out? Do you stay in place? What do you do?
Well, everything will also depends on the type of injuries. No?
Okay.
One of the things that we say, okay, if you are in a motor vehicle accident and you survive and you are with somebody else in the car, then we need to ensure that we are trying to put these patients stable, trying to avoid to mobilize them as much. If they have fractures, trying to immobilize the fracture. And the ones that are more dangerous is the cervical one, because if we have a cervical fracture and we mobilize the head, we can even section the entire spinal cord and cause more harm than help. No? Mean that we need to be act quickly, but with this level of responsibility when it comes to mobilize the people that are involved. No?
Yeah. I oftentimes think about doctors, medical practitioners, and the experiences that you guys have when you come across different accidents, different persons coming in with traumas. How do you ensure that you stay calm and regulated as well when individuals are composed, when individuals come in with huge gashes, open wounds from these accidents as well?
Yes, well, it's everything comes with experience. No? Of course, it's not every of us that at some point, especially at the very beginning of our practice, it was very difficult as how to act. But as we encounter more cases and also we know what to do, then that's give you the composure. No? But if at the beginning we also have these moments that we also came into shock and how to act. No? But again, this is just experience. No?
We talk about many of these incidents being avoidable or preventable, right? To me, that would speak directly to road safety, right? In terms of obeying the traffic regulations and being vigilant and so on, right?
Yes.
But those are behavioral things. Those aren't necessarily things that, if I'm driving and the speed limit says drive 55, the moment I exceed 55 miles per hour, I know that I'm putting myself and my passengers at risk. I know that I'm putting someone else who's using that road at risk. But most of us don't think like that. We figure, Doc, I done 15 minutes late, so I have to gun it, leave it, and try to make up for last time. And it's in those snap decisions that we endanger ourselves and other people.
Yes.
So how do we prevent? How do we tell ourselves, look, if we're to prevent an accident from happening, what should I do to make sure that I'm safe in what I'm doing using the road?
Yes, well, the United Nations Plan 21 and 230 plan that I believe also Belize's signature, basically it's a comprehensive plan. And this one, when we talk about road traffic accidents, is a very comprehensive view. No? It's not only that, but also it comes with planning the roads and sidewalks, law enforcement, ensuring that everybody basically adhere to what we should do, in terms of driving safely, using helmets, using our seat belts, prevent the use of phones, knowing that if we are going to drive, don't have alcohol intake, avoid alcohol intake if you're driving. If you're planning to intake alcohol, then ask someone to drive for you. But the unfortunate driving into the influence, it causes a lot of problems. No, the increase also numbers of motorcycles that we see, and also most of the accidents we are seeing those days are motorcycle related. No, I mean that the enforcement of the law plays an important role in all this planning. No? Of course, as well as the strengthening of the pre-hospital services, that is critical, no? Because with a lot of effort, like in us and at Belize Healthcare Partners, we have put a lot on development the emergency services and all these scenarios, as well as the government has been investing in the infrastructure of the facilities, but most of these those situations happen at